Good morning, everybody. My talk this morning is less technical than some of the others you'll see. We're going to talk about cybersecurity, but from the point of view of working in this field, how we can start out in this market, and at what age can we start training and getting prepared for this field. In terms of computer science, but not only just in cybersecurity, but in general. Let's go quickly into the presentation, because I've already been presented this morning. Just give me a second, because the slide isn't moving forward. We'll skip over this first bit because I've already been presented. I work in a field that's not directly related with cybersecurity, but in my specialization, in my area of work, has come into this field. I am a teacher or lecturer at the University of Castilla-La Mancha, and on the Master in Cybersecurity and Security Information. And I'm an professional expert in computer safety, and I've worked in the administration, but the last few years I've been working in the field of computing and cybersecurity. So let's move on to the next slide, and we're going to talk about several different things. I've got a little bit of an index here. And this is the title of the talk is about working in the field of cybersecurity. What do I need to do? Do I need a degree? And we'll talk a little bit about the available qualifications that you can get in the field, and what different areas within cybersecurity you can work in, and more about what would I like to do more specifically. We'll talk about certificates that you can gain in the field of cybersecurity. And some of these, I think these are both theoretically and in practice very positive. Also, the skills that a person who specializes in cybersecurity needs. And we'll talk about training and qualifications and continuous training. People involved in this field are always in different forums with different congresses and giving talks, and we're continually improving and learning more. What are businesses looking for, and what kind of salary can we achieve? This is one of the areas that I love. It would seem that there are few people in this field, not enough people, and few specialist people. However, there is not really a balance in what businesses or institutions ask for, and what I'm prepared to give as an institution. So we're doing a comparison also with the US and the UK, and we'll talk about if there's a future in this field. I think the future is closer than we think in terms of the professionals that we need in this field. So let's start with the definition of cybersecurity. This is taken from ISAC. I'm sure you're familiar with it. They establish regulations on a global scale, and perhaps for me this is the best definition, and it's a protection of information assets. In short, what we're talking about here is, if I can get the information up, we're talking about assets and information, which could be anything. Anything can be of value for an organization. It can be systems, it can be people, it can be computers of any kind. and assets and information is very general. But at the end of the day, what we do is to protect digital information. Because it's information that you can find in any kind of support. So where do I start? This is one of the reasons why I'm talking here today. We're going to talk about the different itineraries, and my objective, the objective I've set for myself, is to talk from the point of view of someone who's doing primero de la ESO, and the objective that someone who can work, maybe not directly in cybersecurity, maybe when you're 12 you don't know exactly why cybersecurity is, although there are some people who do. But there are people, boys and girls, who at that age already know that they want to work in something related with technology or computer science in this case. So we have to highlight that we have vocational training, educación profesional básica, and you can start that after tercero ESO. When you are 14, 15, there's already a branch of vocational training that is aimed, that has to do with technology or computer science. And if you are 18, you can also go to a middle level vocational training, and you get professional qualification and access to the professional market. So we are talking about accessing the market when you are 17 already with a technician certificate. Most people who work in the field of cybersecurity come from universities. That is true. They have done a degree. Is that the only way of working in cybersecurity? No, and we will see that afterwards. And actually, I'm showing you here one very specific itinerary. You don't have to do all of this to get to a degree, but through vocational training, doing different levels of vocational training, we can acquire knowledge that can then give us access to university-level education. And then we'll see the difference between undergoing vocational training or going directly to university or even to university at all in terms of getting hired by companies. So I'm talking about basic vocational training. I want to mention this because I think it's very interesting that from a very young age you can start working with technology or with computer science. So we're talking people who are not older than 17 can already have access to this kind of training. So actually, even if teachers, tutors, parents know already that secondary education, mid and higher secondary education might not be the best thing for a student, then they can actually start doing vocational training. But at the end of the day, what we want is for people to to do the things that they want to do and not necessarily undergo studies that then they might actually give up at some point if they don't go with what they want. We have different professional families, as you can see here. So we have ciclos básicos, that is basic vocational training. We also have graduado en educación secundaria, that is compulsory secondary education. And then you also have the basic professional title vocational training, ciclo básico. This is some sort of an apprenticeship, if you want to. It's like system assistant. So you can imagine that obviously here the salaries are very, very low. And then you can have middle level vocational training that gives you access to secondary education. You can actually access it from post-compulsory secondary education, and then you can go to the higher level, which is técnico superior, higher technician. This is the highest qualification that you can get in vocational training. There are many people who start doing the middle range level certificates, and who once
they go directly to university because they've decided to do a degree, telecommunications, engineering, but they've already had some professional training and practice that has put them in contact with the real world and with systems and computers. And having taken the decision of doing vocational training, they have not stopped studying, so it's easier to then go on to university education. So the good thing about vocational training is that you do some part of your training in workplaces, so you get really close to the actual real world. One thing that's actually very trendy right now is dual vocational training. So you study and at the same time work, and you get a little salary in a company. So you are earning some money whilst you're studying, and this is very important for some people because they feel more valued, which is something that you don't usually get in vocational training. They get certain advantages as well because they have a work contract, and they have at least 1 year, of course, that contract. They are getting experience, and this is very important because when we finish university, we are asked to have experience, but we don't have any. So they will also earn some money, they will learn in a working environment, and then they might actually continue working in the company, because if I've had a professional here, a young person who has come to my company when they were 14 and have been doing a lot of work and have been doing undergoing their training at the same time as they were working here. I might be interested in having that person in my team, even if they might not then go on to have a university degree. Maybe I can train them. Maybe I can just give them continuous professional training. So vocational training gives you access to these certifications, the ones in green, and then you have the ones in brown for middle-level vocational training, and then for higher vocational training you have the ones in blue, 3 different itineraries in this case that you can choose.
Aquí tenemos una exposición de
you can see the different
los ciclos formativos de
grado vocational training options. Many of you will already know them,
que son los famosos ASIR,
DAM and
que son realmente sí que son una cosa que son valoradas de las empresas. De hecho, este tipo de profesional que sale con esta titulación de FP, hace nada,
Mercadona hired 200 people with this certification a couple of years ago. They didn't need someone with more training because they were going to train them themselves afterwards. But they had to have at least this training. Now, when it comes to university training, IT engineering is the usual path for everyone. You have different itineraries. You have IT, computing engineering, software engineering, information systems, and information technology.
También, por supuesto, grado en ingeniería de telecomunicaciones. Muchos técnicos van y giran su trabajo hacia el tema de
many people who study this degree then end up working in cybersecurity. Now we're talking about 240 credits in 4 years, but now it's very trendy to do mathematics and engineering together. So you get 360 credits in 5 years, and as you know, this was in the press not long ago. And in some universities there are people who are very, very clever and can do this sort of training in 4 years, and obviously those people have a very secured future. And now I'm going to show you specific university training in cybersecurity. This is from Universidad Francisco de Vitoria and Universidad Rey Juan Carlos. You have different studies here to do with cybersecurity engineering. You can see all the links here to know a bit more. This is going to grow even further because the market is requesting people with these abilities, and so universities and different education centers are going to have more specific training for this, not only just IT or computing engineering, but something very specific related to cybersecurity.
Aquí vamos a lo divertido del grado en ingeniería informática.
The most fun of studying computing engineering. The first year is a NIMA. And what does a NIMA mean? If any of you have studied computing engineering and you have managed to pass the first year, when you start seeing that you're going to have maths, physics, statistics, programming, you think it's going to be really fun, but then you start doing pseudo coding and you think, where did this come from? And then you've got networks, very basic, and people get a bit overwhelmed because they thought they were going to get there and start doing really fun things, and it's not the way it works. So what happens is what you see on the right-hand side, that there are many people who just drop off because they don't get sucked into degree and everything, and you can see headlines from media that say that many people do drop off. So you have to be very sure that once you finish high school and you want to go to university, you have to be very sure that you want to do computing engineering. We have to know exactly what you're going to have to study, because otherwise this is what happens. If you don't have the ability or the predisposition to study all these subjects and you don't feel like doing it, and you can go to something which is more specific, then that is something that you need to take into account. You know that now vocational training is very trendy. It's true that the government wants for vocational training to get to a higher level in terms of students, almost equal to that of university students, and there are even study families for cybersecurity. There are many, many things to do with cybersecurity in vocational training, and it's going to boom very, very soon. Now, the biggest question, do I really need a degree? Degree versus vocational training versus self-training. Now, degree versus vocational training. Now, I'm not going to lie, I'm not going to talk too much about this either. Companies want people with degrees. Some companies might look for higher vocational training, but 90% of job offers require university degrees. Now, a different thing would be if they know you because you've had a very long career, you have been self-taught, and you did applications when you were little, and you would upload them on Google Play to sell them, and you've always liked ethical hacking and everything. But unless you are that person, you will need a degree in 90% of the occasions to join a company. Now, another very important thing, vocational training, when it comes to salaries, is not as valued as a university degree. Just talking from an economic point of view, the higher your training, the highest level of training you have, the more you're going to earn. And you may think, well, when you finish a degree, you didn't have a practical training, or not as much, just to be valued more than someone who's been working with computers since they were 14. Yeah, right? But that is what the companies want. And there's another very important thing. when a company starts a project, when they have competition for people or companies to do that project, they ask for the people who are going to be part of the project to have a university degree. But not only that, the company wants for those people to also have further certification, for example, in CH, which is a theoretical certification that between us doesn't really add much. Then ISACA certifications as well. There are many things that they make compulsory on the conditions to actually take part in the competition. So with a degree, you have more options for companies than with vocational training, but let's not forget what I said before. Mercadona hired 200 people with vocational training. Now, how about self-training, being self-taught? Well, if you're going to be able to start a company, or if you're very good at selling and PR, and you can have a repository with applications, or if you can do keynote speaking, you can attend security conferences, and you basically get known. I'm not saying you cannot earn well and have a life, but it is very difficult when you get to compete for a project or to take part in projects. It's going to be very difficult as well. So usually, the highest formal training you undergo, the better your chances to find a job. At the end of the day, the different paths to get to the same place, but it depends on what you want to do at every stage of your life. And we're talking about since when you are 14 years old, and we're not talking about adults. Now, when it comes to training, this to finish on the training part of the conference. There's training, very good training. You have the link here. You can. This is compiled by NFIBA. You will find the presentations on the internet afterwards. But this has a lot of information about all the institutions, the companies that train on cyber security. On top of all of that, there's another guide that's issued every year on masters and degrees for cybersecurity in Spain, and you will find numerous masters and degrees that will allow you to work on this, or if you want to undergo more specific training. I highly recommend this. Now, on a different note, what would I like to do? What field should I choose?
So what can we do in the field of cybersecurity? There are many things that you can do in cybersecurity. You can work in software, creating apps to manage security, or even hardware, creating equipment to protect different areas. I could work perhaps in the legal area in terms of cybersecurity, in terms of regulations and on. People working in this field don't tend to have come from an engineering field, but that does happen sometimes. In terms of vulnerabilities or ethical hacking and so on, pen testing. These are quite popular. So there's the field of malware. It's very popular at the moment. So there's reverse analysis and so on. All of these are very popular areas. But my advice is always to try a little bit of everything. If I don't try something, that I don't know if I'm going to like it, maybe just do a course for a few hours, give me a general idea, and I might say, oh, I love reversing, or it's not my particular case, but you might like ethical hacking or response to incidents, forensics. Try a little bit of everything. That's the most interesting way of doing things. There are many different areas. The different areas that you work in cybersecurity are generally offensive and defensive security. They're generally those two main branches. We're talking about pen testing, about hunting, about protecting. We're talking about those two main definitions, and then we have the rest of the areas that you can work in. So here's a list of the different areas that you can work in cybersecurity: analysis of malware, digital forensics, incident handling, developing tools. Telefonica develops its own tools. So we have ethical hacking, management of risks. Ethical hacking is one of the things that people like most. Look into systems. Pen testing is also a really great area. Threat intelligence, threat hunting, critical infrastructures. Critical infrastructures to me is a very, very interesting field. You can see there are many, many different installations, and not necessarily critical ones, but in different companies, they block any external people for coming in. Yes, in some companies they work with Windows NT or 3.1. Just with a card, you can say, oh, wow, we used to do this at the beginning of all time. But it's always worked like that. And if I want to change that, then I have to stop the company's system and they have to put it on hold, and that costs money. So therefore, companies don't even think about it. We have to focus in a different kind of way. You have to go around the perimeter and get a different kind of focus on it. So it's a field that I think is very, very interesting, and I think it's a field for the future as well. In cybersecurity, the term of installations is very interesting. So certificates that you can get, the most demanded ones in cybersecurity, and the ones that companies are looking for. Because you can be a computer engineer, but you don't have any experience when you go out into the world of work, and so you enter a company as a junior with no experience. Sometimes companies do go after a particular person, because we do say that we need many computer professionals for cybersecurity, and that this is necessary, and these people need to go straight into companies right now. And but it's also difficult to find jobs without any kind of qualification. Some of those that are most demanded in the field are those of ISACA, such as the systems auditor and security manager. These are the ones that are most required in the field of work. We'll look at specific examples in a bit, but you'll see that these are some of the things that are being required. So this is nothing. This is safety governance. However, I'm talking about ISACA here, but there are some people who do already have a vocational training, and that, to me, tells me that that person has gone through a practical process, and that tells me that that person already has some training and can sit in front of a computer. The theory might and the practice might be two different things. What about the EC Council certificate for ethical hackers? It's a test at the end of it all. There's a subject matter that you have to cover, and then a test at the end. You can say, oh, I'm a computer scientist, and I've got this ethical hacker certificate from the EC Council, and now I'd like to work. But a business might say that I'll be given 3 options, and I have to select one of those because that's what I've been trained for. And if I'm not able to do that, then what have I been trained for? Of course, this is a filter, and certifications are important, but we do need practice. We need practice. Currently in Spain, there are some qualifications that you can give that are issued by a company, one for red team, one for blue team. And qualifications means getting training in a specific area, and you have to know what that is going to be useful for you for. If somebody comes to me with practical experience, then I believe in them a little bit more. So sometimes what you get is what you see on this list, and there are other certifications that you can get, but they're very, very expensive for what they actually give you. So what skills do you need? I'm going to go through this quickly. I'll just talk quickly a little bit about some of the things that I think are most important. Capacity to learn. This is every day. Today we are given a problem, but that didn't exist yesterday. So now I have to resolve it today. I have to be continually learning and continually updating myself regarding the technology. I don't know anybody in cybersecurity that isn't constantly going to forums, that isn't getting involved in talks. I don't know anybody who really works in the field who is not involved in these kind of events. You need commitment. There is a lot of sharing of information between different companies, and this is really important. At the beginning you tend to think, oh, if I've got this knowledge, then I'm going to be better valued in the market. But no, on the contrary. But if I don't know if you've got that knowledge, if you don't tell me about that, I'm never going to find you, ever. Yeah, it's not just that you're in your house hidden away, but it's just that you're not exposing yourself to the opportunities, and I'm not going to find you. So projects and results, this is how the big companies work. You have to be able to work under pressure. Sometimes you will be faced with a big issue, and sometimes you just have to resolve that. And that might be the only thing that employing you has been useful for. You have to be able to resolve issues, whatever time of day, Saturday at 12 at night, if it has to be. Teamwork. You have to know how to work by yourself, but you have to know how to work in a team. A lot of work is done from home. Many of the companies, the big companies, have people who work from home, but you have to work in a team as well. You have to have initiative, you need to be dynamic and have intuition. That's when you have an issue that comes to you and you're not really sure where it's coming from. Anything of that kind that makes you think, and you just can't just sit back, but you have to react and act. So now we're talking about ethics. This is a vocational area of employment. Obviously, when you're 13, 14, doing secondary education, you don't have to feel the vocation at that age, but during the first few years of your engineering degree, for example, then you do need to have that feel for vocation and then to know whether it's the job for you or not. And that's irrespective of whether or not there's a current bubble of employment in this that's very well paid. Most contracts that are set up with large companies also have an attachment to them, and it indicates that you have to respond, and you must not reveal any of the information. And this is what you're sharing with your colleagues even. Teamwork is absolutely essential. You have to share results, you have to share experience, share absolutely everything. In this community, in the hacker community, for example, this is a community in which we share everything. We have a lot of exchanges, there's a lot of forums, there are a lot of talks. So you should never lose that interest in sharing. And if you share your information, that doesn't mean you're of less value for a company. On the contrary, you're of more value to a company. Continuous training. Training never ends, never ever. You have to be continually learning. Here we have a number of blogs of all different kinds. Some are a bit darker than others, some are on the grey area, and some of which I can recommend. Groups on security, for example. I like Kitbloit a lot. I like the HISPA-SEC there at the bottom, so that you can focus on some of the vulnerabilities that are coming up, so that you can continually update. So one a day, una al día, at the bottom that you can see there is a Spanish one. It's a project by Paco González, and it's been on hold for a while, but it's now up and running again now, and it's very, very good. The INCIBE also has a lot of information, and sometimes can seem a little bit heavy because it's an institution, but they have a load of interesting information. What courses can we do to complement and add on to what we've already learned in official education? There are a few recommendations here, such as offensive security, that I think are essential. If you'd like to work in pen testing or ethical hacking, for example. We've got the Pen Tester Academy over the internet, Khan Academy, Code Academy. Some of these courses are free, and the only thing you have to do is to pay if you need to get the certificate or the diploma at the end, because, well, these entities put a lot of time into these projects, so that's fine. Udemy also has a number of different courses of this kind, both in English and in Spanish. And there are very, very many interesting things about technology, about programming. Of course, if you don't know anything about Python in terms of cybersecurity, then you're nobody. So specific academies that I mentioned, there are many that work in the weekends, they're available in the week. There are many different ways of getting additional education. Different events that you can participate in, such as this one, CyberCamp. There are technical talks or educational talks such as this one, or even practical ones and workshops that you can get involved in. These events are really worth getting involved in. So SecAdmin, NoConName, HoneyCoin, there are many different ones. RedCon, Navaja Negra, Dragon Jar. This is from South America, and Mundo Hacker Day. So there are many places that you can learn new things. It's not just about learning new things, though. It's also a little about networking and getting to know people. I just met somebody in the VIP room, somebody who I used to go to university with, but I didn't actually personally know that person, and it was really great to meet him. Also meeting people on the floor or in the room, and that's also a way of making the community. So this is very, very recommendable. Please go to all the events that you can. Telegram is the revolution. There are many, many different groups, and I really recommend this very highly. I recommend you going into Telegram continuously. And if fact, if you just don't go in for one day, you'll only have about 4,000 messages the next day, so it's fine. So you have to discriminate a little bit the information that you're going to receive and find out what's important to you. Highly recommendable would be InfoSec, Informatica Forense, which is forensic computing, and Hack the Box. They've also got their own group in Telegram. So, talking about certifications, there's a group which is CISA Español. There are specific cybersecurity groups, and on the whole, there is a lot of information there available in Telegram, and I'd really encourage you to go there and have a look. So let's go on to the fun part now.
What do companies look for? Well, as you know, most technological job offers you can find on, well, most of them, as I was saying, InfoJobs, LinkedIn, and Tecnoempleo. So what do they value? This is everything that is valued. Well, having computing engineering degree or similar, high-level vocational training in computing. Remember that only 10% of offers do say this, because what people want is a degree. All sorts of vocational training, also obviously valued postgraduate certificate or master's at high level of English. Now, take into account, if you work in security and you don't know English, it's not possible, and your level of English has to be even higher. Now they're even saying, well, you need a C1 because you might have to go outside of Spain. You might not actually get outside of Spain, but they have to discriminate. When they say there are no profiles, well, the thing is that I'm just going to look at something at random. Well, regulations, well, I don't know about this regulation, but I do know about regulation 27001. And hello, companies, if you have a project and you need specific characteristics for that project, then that's what you need to look for. And of course, I would like for someone to speak English, French, take the kids to school, and make food for me and my family. Well, you need to have knowledge in absolutely everything, all the certifications possible. The more you have, the better. That you know about industrial cybersecurity scripting, PowerShell, Python, that you know Elastic as well as the back of your hand, that you know about Magerid, that you know about working methodologies, because that is very trendy right now. You know, you have to know Kanban, Agile, you need to know about that, because obviously in this company, this is the way we work. And you also have to be certified by Cisco or Palo Alto or Fortinet. Yeah, fine. Company, hello. You want this kind of profile. Take into account that this is a bit exaggerated. This is what everyone wants. But let's even think about even half this profile, just a quarter of this profile. How much is this worth? How much are you going to pay this professional who has all of this? A lot? Oh yeah, but the company is not really ready to pay that much. Hello, there needs to be a balance, because either we ask for what we really need, or we increase our salaries, and you can imagine how this works. Salaries never increase because they are what they are. Now let's go to the fun part. We have 8 minutes, but this is going to be really the icing on the cake. Now you can see the source, expansion,
Sueldos, vamos a centrarnos, como hay mucha cosa, vamos a centrarnos en uno, en ciberseguridad.
Let's focus on cybersecurity. This is all net, so before taxes, yeah?
La media.
The average
Pero ojo, nos vamos a Barcelona, Madrid,
So
y estamos en 47.000, 45.000.
Barcelona, you see 45, 47,000. The average is 33,000.
ostras,
And you think, well,
pues igual me interesa mucho el mundo de la
47,000,
ciberseguridad.
45,000, well, I
Luego,
might
claro,
start to
luego
get
haces
interested
estadísticas,
in cybersecurity, but then when you
digamos,
actually run
reales,
statistics
y
with
entonces cuando
real
haces
life
estadísticas reales,
data,
ya
then
nos
you
acercamos un poco a la
start
realidad.
getting closer to
Estamos hablando que en
reality, because
2017
in 2007,
el salario medio bruto
the
de
average
los profesionales
gross
era
salary
32.000, pero
was
la media de la profesión en su
300,
conjunto, 29.000.
33,000, but then
Ni
most people were getting
ostras.
29,000.
Pero ahora vamos un paso más. Ahora vamos,
But we're
LinkedIn
going
tiene
a
una
bit further
herramienta
because
que es bastante
LinkedIn has
chula,
this
que
tool, which
te
is actually
permite a
quite
los
cool,
que
which
sois
allows
profesionales
professionals
decir
to
sin que se sepa
tell
vuestro
the
sueldo
real
real. Y de ahí sí que sacamos
salary.
conclusiones.
And that's
Porque
when we
como lo dice
draw
la gente,
conclusions
de
when
verdad,
people say
una
it
estadística que he hecho en las
for
empresas,
real,
con
and
lo que le
not
pago a mi
what companies say that
y con
we
lo que le pago a uno del
pay
medio,
this managing
pero no me acuerdo
director
ni de los juniors ni de la gente que está picando código
someone
ahí
else, but not the juniors and
de
people
tarde a
who
tarde.
spend the whole day just
Ya empezamos a otra cosa.
copying data.
Sueldo base 29.000. Ostras,
Here we are
que estamos
somewhere
en
else, because as you can see,
Ahora
the basic
29.000.
salary is
Pero,
29,000.
ojo,
We're talking about 33,000 and 45,000. But
creo que
can
se
you
ve
see it
bien,
properly?
¿verdad?
Hello, the
19.500.
average
O sea, estamos
is
hablando que el perfil del junior es
19,500
19.500.
for a
De la persona que
junior,
acaba de
someone
entrar.
who's just starting
Bruto.
out. This is gross.
19.500
Now think about
poneros en
this.
Madrid.
Earning
Es la marinera, Y es
19,500 in
sueldo
Madrid.
más
Can you
habitual.
make ends meet? And
Llegamos
that
aquí,
is
por
the
supuestísimo, y
the
aquí da un
usual.
salto.
And can we get
¿Sabéis
somewhere
por qué
else?
esos
Yeah.
saltos podéis
And
figurar?
there's
Gente
jumps
que
here
está
as
al
well,
mando de
because there are
proyectos,
people
jefe de
who are
proyecto,
in managing
luego aquí viene un
positions.
pero la gran mayoría de la gente está por debajo de los 29.000.
Earning under
¿Qué quiere decir eso? ¿Por qué
19,000
os explico esto?
euros gross
Porque
a year.
que
Why am I
pretenda
saying this?
dedicarse a
Because
esto
those of you
sin
who want to do
vocación
this
está muerto.
and don't have the
Porque cuando
vocation
tienes que
to do
jugar
it,
con lo
then
que es tu sueldo,
you're dead. Because when you
en
have
relación a tu
to
trabajo, pero tu trabajo te
judge
encanta,
your
a
salary
lo mejor
related
puedes
to your
compaginar.
job, then
Pero
you
ahora que esa
might
burbuja de
actually
tanta
cope.
necesidad de
But now
profesional
that
de
everyone is saying
ciberseguridad,
that they need
si tengo un
professionals in
sueldo que no es el que me
cybersecurity,
corresponde o yo
if I'm
suponía que me
earning something
correspondía
that it's
según
not
los
what I
baremos
thought was going to
que
be
están
earning,
publicados de
if I
estadística.
take into
Y encima el
account
trabajo no me gusta y me he
statistics,
metido ahí
and
porque
I
es
have
lo que está de
only got
moda,
into this
estoy
because it's
muerto.
trendy, then
O sea,
I'm dead.
voy a
Because
durar en este
I'm
campo y vas a ir amargado
going to be
en
here
2 años.
about 2
Por eso,
years,
lo que os hablaba
and
antes, la vocación,
I'm
importantísima.
not, and I'm going to run
Vamos a
away
ir
from here because
los sueldos
vocation
medios de
is
Estados Unidos,
key.
del mismo
Now,
campo, sacado del
this
mismo
is
sitio,
in the
no
United
es
States
inventado,
now.
sacado
This
del
is
mismo
exactly
sitio.
from
No
the
está ni
same
cocinado
source,
ni nada.
LinkedIn. This is, I haven't done
LinkedIn,
anything with
ya lo
this.
veis ahí.
So we're talking
Estamos hablando que el
about a
promedio son
median
$90.000.
or
Os he
an
hecho
average
aquí
salary of
la traducción a
$90,000.
80.000
In euros would be
Pero
around
ojo, mirad aquí,
81,000 euros.
Aquí sí que estamos
But,
ahí, Ahí sí que
here,
estamos
if
ahí.
you look at
A
the
ver,
bar
no nos vamos a
graph,
meter en lo que va a vivir
then
en
we
un
are
sitio ni lo que va a
really
vivir en
close to
otro,
that. We're
Pero
not. I'm not going to go into how
que el
much it
profesional que tiene
costs.
posibilidad
The living
de salir
costs
de España,
in different
se vaya de
countries.
España.
And I'm not saying that
Está
if
claro.
you want
Soy un
to earn
profesional bien
properly, you
formado,
have
he
to
hecho mi
leave
ingeniería,
Spain
encima
and
estoy
go
certificado en
abroad.
alguna tecnología. Ostras, es que me voy con los ojos cerrados.
I understand
Y es
that it
normal.
happens,
A lo
however.
mejor en España
Maybe in
tenemos que hacer un
Spain we should
pensamiento,
start thinking
¿no? A
about
nivel
this
laboral,
from
a
a
nivel empresarial.
company point of view.
No nos vamos a Estados Unidos, nos
And
vamos
let's talk
cerca.
about the
Vamos a
United
Reino
Kingdom,
Unido.
which is closer.
Vale, Reino Unido.
Now, where
¿Cómo
are we
estamos?
in the United Kingdom?
42.800 libras al año.
£42,800
Que
a
viene siendo
year,
unos
which is
50.000.
about
Pero ojo,
50,000
fijaros una cosa
euros.
muy
But
interesante,
this
pasa como
is
España.
similar to Spain. We have
Hay aquí
here a very
un
high percentage
porcentaje
of
muy alto
people
de gente que yo
who I
interpreto que son
understand will
también
be
juniors,
juniors,
gente recién llegada,
who are starting,
o
or
gente
foreigners
extranjera
who
que
want to earn
quiere
more
cobrar
than
más que los
the
19.000 de
19,000
media de aquí en
you
España, que se
earn
va
on
allí
average here
y
in
esa ya
Spain,
cuenta y tiene
and
formación y
that
tiene
already counts,
experiencia.
and you've got
Estamos
training and
hablando
experience. So we're talking
22.000,
about
poner
22,000, say
25.000 euros
25,000
aproximadamente.
approximately.
Y ya veis,
And then
va
it
descendiendo.
goes down.
Por supuesto
And
que
then,
llegamos a
of course,
103.000
yeah,
que cobrarán
we
los
get to
superficies que tienen un nivel
103,000
internacional. Pero
for
la mayoría
probably
está aquí.
directors, but the
Estamos hablando de que el
majority
promedio
is
pues
around
eso,
here.
49.000, 50.000
49,000,
euros.
5,000 euros.
¿Qué es lo que
What
quiero
do
que
I want
saquéis
you
de
to
resumir, que se os quede en la
take
cabeza?
out
Que es
from
importante.
this?
Sobre todo, que
Basically,
esta
the
profesión la informática
computing
dirigida
and
hacia ciberseguridad
computing
tiene mucho de
focused
vocación.
on
Porque si no, ya os
cybersecurity
digo que
is
esto os
a lot
matará.
about vocation, because otherwise this is going to kill
Rápidamente, que
you.
nos queda
Now,
poco
is there a
tiempo. ¿Hay
future?
futuro?
Is there a future for people who want to do
Pues mirad las
cybersecurity?
estadísticas que son de
Statistics here, these are
2018.
from
Ay, perdón.
2018.
Ahora. Uso de Internet. El 55% de personas del mundo usan Internet. O sea, más de 4.000 millones de personas. Es curioso un dato, fijaros. La tasa de penetración en Norteamérica es del 95%, en Europa el 85%,
they
obviamente
have
África el 36%.
95% penetration rate. But now look at Asia. They have
hay
2 billion
de personas
people who
que
use
utilizan
the
asiduamente
internet
Internet.
on a daily basis.
¿Hay
Is
campo
there
para trabajar?
future?
Una persona es un problema.
A
Persona,
person
problema,
is an
factor
issue.
humano.
That is the human factor. That is the
el handicap
handicap
de
of
cualquier
every
sistema de
single
seguridad.
security system.
Vamos a ver, los agentes de las amenazas
Now,
más
the most
significativas
significant
durante 2018.
threats in
¿Por qué hay futuro en la
2018. Why is there a
ciberseguridad?
future in
¿Por qué hay que
cybersecurity?
trabajar en esto? ¿Por
Why,
qué hay que
if
dedicarse
you
a
have the
esto? Si tienes
vocation, you
vocación.
should
Por
do
esto.
this. Because of this,
Porque
what you seeing here. Because
toda esta
all
gente,
these people, even states,
estados, incluso estados, delincuentes, terroristas,
criminals,
activistas,
skip
scriptees,
kiddies, terrorists,
insiders,
hacktivists,
o sea, insiders, hablamos de personal interno,
people from within
sigue
the company
atacando por medios
are
informáticos a otra
attacking
gente.
other
Es
people
decir, pues mirad cosas curiosas. Los delincuentes,
through
pues claro, a
informatics.
empresas,
So
robar
they
información,
steal
manipular,
information,
fraude
they
de SEO,
manipulate,
configurar, todo ese tipo de cosas.
they do
Los terroristas,
sabotage,
pues, o más los activistas,
hacktivists, they
pues interrumpir
interrupt
servicios
services,
de empresas, de la cultura, los
in
ciudadanos,
companies.
los activistas, no. Pero
But
esto,
everything
todo
that you
esto que
see
veis aquí,
here is
sigue
still
funcionando.
working.
Y eso
And
tiene futuro.
There
Una
is
profesión
a
con
future,
futuro,
is
porque
a
esto va a
profession
seguir,
that
va a
has
seguir
a very
sucediendo.
bright future
De
ahead
hecho,
of
si os dais
it.
cuenta,
And
las
if you
amenazas
can
más
see the most
significativas,
significant threats
esto estamos
in
hablando de 2019, de ENISA,
2019,
vemos que
from
el malware
ENISA, you can see
es
the
el número
malware
uno.
is the number one.
Hablamos de phishing,
We see
de
phishing,
negaciones de
we see
servicio,
denial
hablamos
of
de
service, we
ataques
see
a
web
webs o
attacks
aplicaciones
or
web,
attacks
con lo que
to
sea, un
web
security identification,
applications, could
un
be
cross-site
scripting, could be
lo que sea.
anything,
Pero
but
estamos
that's what
ahí.
we are.
Hace
We
falta
need
profesionales que
professionals to
resuelvan todo este
solve
tipo de
all
problemas y que
these
estén al
problems.
tanto.
We have
Brechas de
security
seguridad,
breaches.
hace
We
falta
need
racionar a los
people
equipos.
in those teams. We're
Vamos a
going
necesitar
to need people for that.
robos de información,
Information
manipulaciones,
stolen,
pérdidas,
loss of information,
ransomware.
Is
Hay
there
trabajo,
work?
por
Yes,
supuestísimo que hay
there is
trabajo.
a lot of work.
En
And all
estos
these
campos
fields
van a crecer.
are going to
Y se van a
grow.
necesitar
They're
personal
going
más
to need people
especializado,
who are
con
more
más certificaciones
specialized
en
and they have
muchísimos
more
productos, en muchísimas
training,
más cosas, con más
that they know
formación.
about more
Por supuesto
products
que
and
futuro.
things.
Una cosa que habrá que luchar
But
seguramente
obviously we will
será lo
have
que os he
to
dicho del
fight
tema de los
about
sueldos. Hacerse valer.
salaries.
No
We
sabemos cuándo
have
llegará esa
to
revolución, pero tendrá que
make
llegar
a stand,
obligatoriamente.
and that revolution will have to come
Este
at some
informe que os
point.
he enseñado antes,
This
por si lo
report
queréis,
that I
ver un
showed you
poquito más a
earlier, in case you
fondo,
want to
lo ha editado el
look at it.
CCNCERT, que es el
This is from
Centro de Capacidad de Respuesta a
CNCERT,
Incidentes
which is the
del
Center
Centro
of
Tecnológico Nacional.
Response Capacity
Y
to
en este
Security
link lo podéis ver que era un
Incidents
poquito más a
from
fondo, que
the
está muy
Centro
interesante y es muy
Tecnológico
llevadero, muy
Nacional,
fácil
CCN,
de,
in
muy fácil de
Spain.
leer. Recordad que
It's
si
very
queréis dedicar a la
easy to read,
dedicar a
and
la
if you
informática
want to
o a
work
la
with
ingeniería y a la
engineering,
ciberseguridad más
cybersecurity,
concretamente, y os queréis
computing,
dedicar a un
and
tema
you'd like to
tipo
work
explotación de
in
sistemas y
something to do
tal,
with system,
pues lo más duro y lo más
different systems,
aburrido es hacer
the
informes.
most
y no
boring
trabajar.
part of it
Entonces, si
is
vais aprendiendo cómo
drawing,
son los informes, pues mira,
writing
decidme. Cómo hacer un
reports,
informe fácil,
and
sencillo.
well, at least you have an example
Por
of something
último,
easy to
futuro de la
read.
ciberseguridad está claro.
Now, finally, what
Las pymes del futuro que no
do
cuenten con un experto de
the
ciberseguridad como
media
Irán,
say?
me
Well,
parece
the
un poco extremista,
SMEs
¿vale?
of the
Un poco
future
extremista, pero
who do not
realmente
have an expert in
yo creo que es así.
cybersecurity will die. This might be a bit
Ya no van a ser
extreme, but I
grandes
think it is true.
empresas.
It's
Ahora ya,
no longer about big companies.
Ransomware,
Ransomware
despachos de abogados,
will be
hay
present
ransomware en
in
empresas pequeñitas que
lawyer
en fontanerías,
firms, law
hay de todo,
firms,
claro, claro que se va a
in
necesitar
for
muchísimo
plumbers,
personal
for
en ese sentido.
everyone.
La razón.
La razón here, another Spanish paper, looking for an expert in cybersecurity. This is key for all companies who want to get protected from a potential cyber attack. Governments, obviously, the governments will need a lot of people working on this. Cybersecurity, job with a very bright future and salaries that go over €45,000. I've done this on purpose,
La
by
prensa
the
yo
way,
creo que no
just because
se
of what we've
termina
seen
de
before.
enterar de cómo está el mercado. Pero para que veáis.
So this is all for you to see.
Que va a haber que luchar por
Will there be
especializarse y porque esa
jobs?
especialización
Yes,
valga
of
dinero.
course. Will you have to specialize? Will you have to
Experto en
fight
ciberseguridad, una de las profesiones
for
más demandadas en
salaries to rise?
2030.
Yes, you will as well.
Y es así. es que lo va a ser, si es que lo es ya a día de hoy.
Expert in cybersecurity is one of the professions that will be most sought after in 2030. Which would be the 5 digital jobs most sought after in 2019? Specialists in cybersecurity, protecting information assets. We were seeing that in the first slide. We will have to protect everything that involves information security, teams, banks, institutions, organisms, everywhere. People will need to train in these fields. So,
me han puesto un temporizador de 7 minutitos más
already
porque ya me había pasado.
That,
Pero si queréis hacer una pregunta o queréis comentar algo más que preguntas, yo creo que a lo mejor comentar algo sobre el tema de los sueldos, que me parece que a alguien le ha interesado un poco el tema. Quien quiera comentar algo puede levantar la mano. Si alguien quiere preguntar alguna cosita.
Sorry, I hadn't seen you. Hello. Well, first of all, thanks a lot for your speech. I'm also from Zaragoza. It's been a very interesting speech, and concerning my experience, I have a degree in computing engineering, and I am now undergoing a master's in cybersecurity, and I'm looking for a job now, and I have been able to see what you were saying about salaries, that they give you an image of salaries that does not correspond with reality.
Claro, de hecho,
yes, sorry to cut you there, but
gran parte de la charla
one of the aims of this speech was to show you where it was going. It's a wonderful field, it's very fun, it's stressful as well, it's loads of adrenaline, it's amazing, really. But you need to know what you're getting into, because you do your degree, you go into your master's, they tell you about what the future is going to look like, and it will be so, but it's not like that yet. And yeah, so I just wanted to say that, you know, in most job interviews, they ask you to move to Madrid or somewhere else, and when they ask you, could you move? Well, I always say, well, if you pay me according to the cost of living in Madrid. And that's when the feeling is not as smooth as it was before, when you're asking for a salary that allows you to live in Madrid. I'm not saying you have to pay me loads, I'm just saying I need to get paid at least enough so I can live in Madrid, and it hasn't happened just once. It's happened several times, that everything gets tense the moment you start asking about salaries. Yeah, and this is another thing. In job offers, they didn't say what salary they're offering. And you think, well, I'm going through filters, I'm doing interviews, and I don't even know how much I'm going to earn yet. And that is something that I really do think we should fight for. David Menendez, if you know him, the drone guy,
defiende mucho
he
esa
has
postura también.
also
Es decir, yo
defended
tengo
this position
una
as
oferta
well,
de
because if
trabajo
I have a
y
job
sé lo que voy
offer
a
and
cobrar
I know how
y
much I'm
entonces digo si me
going
interesa
to
o no.
earn, then I have to
No
say
debería
whether
de
I'm
funcionar al
interested or
revés.
not.
Yo me
It shouldn't be the
presento
other way
y
around.
luego
I go,
según
and then
no,
if
no,
you
no,
like me, then you
dime
tell
lo que
me,
voy a
no,
cobrar
I
si
want
tengo los
to know
conocimientos que me has
how
pedido
much
antes.
you're going to
Si
give
los
me
tengo,
if I have all the knowledge you have
ya sé que me vas a pagar
requested.
eso. Si
If
los
I
tengo,
have them,
sí
I know
podemos
that that's what
negociar.
I'll get.
Pero
If
eso
not,
debería
then we
ser
can
obligatorio,
negotiate.
tener
But that's what
esa-
should be
esa-
compulsory, to get
ese apunte de lo que vas a
information
cobrar.
about how much you're going to earn. Thank you very much.
Bueno, muchas gracias. ¿Alguna cosita más? Por ahí.
Hello,
Buenos días.
my name is Jesus, and you've talked about doing a university degree or vocational training. What do you think about professional certificates that CERBEF, the Valencian Employment Service, offers? Well, to be honest, I come from Zaragoza, so I'm not very familiar with these. Well, with those things, the only issue is the practical side of it, and selling that educational product to a company. That is the only issue I see. It is true that I think that, first of all, someone who undergoes vocational training should not be stigmatized. That's what people used to think before, that it was someone who was not clever enough to go to university and they had to find a job. It shouldn't be like that. But what is true is that unless you have specific training and if you didn't fill that up with something else, with certifications in products and other things, as I was saying before, then it is not really complete. I mean, from my point of view, if it's not going to be useful for even being taken into account by an external company, then maybe it should be rethought. Anything else? Yes, over there. I just wanted to say that I've really liked your speech. I'd like to add, when it comes to training in cybersecurity, for what I've seen looking around, I've seen masters which have very, very high tuition fees. I don't know about Universidad de Vitoria, but there's a master's by one of the big audit companies. But, well, sorry to interrupt you, but it's true that we have the Big Four here in Spain, and then you've got the project market, which is led by 4 or 5 companies. So it is true that those companies, in a way, are the ones which train people. Yeah, that's how it works. Yeah, and I also liked to see in your CV that you are a private detective. Well, imagine how important it would be when they intercept your mobile chip, they take it to another phone, and they empty your account. Would you be able to detect the person who has started that crime? Well, there are people who are much more specialized in that subject than me. I would probably have to find one of the assessors I work with. Usually there are people who are very, very good, who actually manage to get chips to then have them mounted in other machines. I personally, it's not what I'm specialized in, but there are many people who work in many different fields. So I understand that it's difficult, but I think that, some people could do it. Thank you. Well, thank you very much.